Good morning. We are getting ready to set the calendar for tomorrow, Wednesday. But before we do that, we've got an amendment. As you will recall, we had House Bill 316 that we put on the calendar for today at yesterday's meeting. And Leader Trammell has introduced an amendment or presented an amendment, and so we're going to go ahead and talk about the amendment right now, and if it is adopted, then it would go to the floor to be considered along with the bill when we debate 316 this morning. So Leader Trammell, do you move your amendment? Okay. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion second to move the amendment. Is there objection? There's objection. All right, Leader Trammell, if you would talk about your amendment for a moment. Get Chuck Martin, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment AM 281697, it goes to the issue of whether or not an electronic ballot marking device could read a barcode or other coding in tabulating the vote, or whether it would be limited to a human readable mark. I think this amendment, there was a lot of discussion on this point in committee and testimony about that, but to the extent that this General Assembly decides to go in the direction of an electronic ballot marking device, this presents a second fundamental question as to what will be tabulated by the scanner. And voters have expressed that they want to have trust and confidence that the mark they make for an individual candidate is the actual mark that is being counted in an election, rather than the use of some barcode that is simply unreadable to the human eye and unreadable without the assistance of external machinery. And that's what this amendment would accomplish.
Thank you. Chairman Fleming, response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Leader, if I accept your amendment, will you vote for the bill?
I don't think the mic works.
Well, Representative, I appreciate the numerous efforts to persuade me on the merits of the bill, but I think I would still have the fundamental reservation about the hand-marked paper ballots. However, what I would say is that this amendment does speak to a fundamental issue that many members of the General Assembly on both sides of the aisle have expressed to me about their concern with respect to human readable marks. And I think in fairness to the state of Georgia and the voters we represent, that this is a proposal that needs to be considered by the full body.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take that as a no.
I think that's the way I took it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, the amendment that the minority leader has offered to you this morning is I think exactly the same wording as an amendment that was offered in the Government Affairs Committee, was debated at length, and was defeated significantly in the Government Affairs, and I am going to ask you to do the same thing and vote no on the offering of this amendment, and here's why. When we get through with this bill, whatever the legislature sets as parameters for the Secretary of State, the Secretary of State will go through something called a request for proposal process, an RFP, and a bidding process, if you will. And what that means is that the 8 or 9 different companies in the United States that make these voting machines in different types for all the states and all the different kinds they use will compete through that process to prove to us that they are a stable enough company to fill the order of now what is the 7th or 8th largest state in the nation. They will compete to show that they are a sound company that will be around for a while to handle the maintenance and the training side of this. They will compete to get the best price. They will compete to say that their technology is better than the other guys, and we should go with them. That RFP process of competition is very important. Now, The practical effect of this amendment would limit significantly the people who could compete to provide us with the voting machines that we use, because there are different types of technology out there. There are arguably two companies that could compete if this amendment were to pass, and one of them may be too small to even fill our order because we're such a large state. You would almost practically be making this a single source contract if you voted yes on this amendment. I think, Mr. Chairman, the better way to go is to vote no on this, allow the RFP process to go forward. I think the issue of which type of technology we choose, whether it be a barcode or not a barcode, the bill does provide that it should be human readable, and you will be able to read the name of the candidate no matter which technology we go with when you get your ballot on election day. But for the process to move forward orderly and get what's best for the citizens, I would ask you to vote no.
Okay, we're going to call the question, having heard from both the proponent of the amendment and the opponent of the amendment. If you vote yes, then the amendment will pass out of rules and will go to the floor to be considered when the bill is debated this morning. If you vote no, then the amendment will not go to the floor. Any questions about that? All right, all in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Opposed? It fails and will not go to the floor. Okay. Chairman Dollar.
Thank you, Chairman. I bring before the committee House Bill 341. You can look, it's located on the second page. Simple measure, it expands our piracy law to include copyrighted material, or for copyrighted material to include electronic storage devices. If this bill sounds familiar, it's because it is, Chairman. Same bill that we passed out last year and actually made it onto the Senate calendar day 40 and ran out of time.
Are there questions? You have no questions.
Thank you.
Chairman McCall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. House Bill 322 is top of the back page. This is the one I was talking about yesterday, where we are having to change, or where we need to change $10,000 to $100,000 on a bill that we did last year. Cities, counties, and school boards are happy that we are doing this. So anytime I can get them three happy, I think we're doing all right.
Chairman Powell.
Gentlemen in the well, this bill, isn't this the product of something that you and I have been working on for over 20 years or thereabouts, that at that particular time to be sure that all local governments are providing information to the free world for bidding process, that they were to go on this procurement directory so that the world could see what they wanted to bid out?
That's right, and ultimately save taxpayer dollars.
And the current number at $10,000, they've asked to go to $100,000.
Correct.
And this is just the standard of the day.
Correct.
Yeah.
You have no other questions.
Thank y'all.
Chairman Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Bring before you today H.R. 214. It's on the second page, last one under modified structured rule. This is just to reauthorize the Rural Development Council, which many of you are familiar with. That has been a phenomenal council that has traveled our state to handle many of the issues of rural Georgia, created by our speaker and co-chaired by Chairman Powell and Chairman England. And we're just reauthorizing it to go another 2 years so we can continue to do great work for rural Georgia.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Representative Meeks. Have you joined us before?
I have not, no, sir. It's the first time.
Well,
Thank you for the
welcome.
opportunity.
Talk to us about HB 332.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you today H-Bill 332. It's on the back page, second from the top. It's more or less a cleanup bill for the Department of Agriculture under the Agriculture Commodities Promotion Act. The Commissioner of Agriculture and the President of Farm Bureau both serve as ex officio members to the commodity commissions, one which provided state biscuits this morning downstairs at Georgia Cattlemen Association. This would allow the Commissioner and the President of Georgia Farm Bureau to designate an individual to attend the meetings on their behalf. They currently attend but don't have a vote unless the Chairman or the President of Farm Bureau are there. So this simply allows them to designate an individual to attend the meetings on their behalf and have a vote should that be necessary.
You have no questions.
Thank you for the consideration, Mr. Chairman.
Y'all are falling down on the job. You understand that. You've got another chance. Representative Anulowicz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I bring before you today House Bill 281. It is the third from the bottom of page 1 under modified structured rule. This bill is very straightforward. It addresses pimping and pandering. That's code section 16611 and 16612. Right now, it's a high and aggravated misdemeanor. This changes that so that second and subsequent offenses in both of these code sections will be a felony offense with a term of 1 to 10 years.
Chairman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, the lady yield for a question.
The lady yields.
This is a question. Yes, I just need to apologize to the member. Here before rules, I referred to her yesterday. I was unfamiliar with what she did for a living. I referred to her as an attorney. I found out she is not, and I apologize for calling her an attorney.
I appreciate that and extend my forgiveness. I am only married to an attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Seriously, so this is going to take these two offenses and make them felonies for the specific it's not changing the offense, it's just creating them into a felony, correct?
Correct. The second and subsequent offense.
Right. Thank you. No, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure we weren't expanding or if we were.
Chairman Efstration.
I'd like to begin by raising my objection to the attorney comments earlier.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. He will never be recognized for a question.
Question to the member speaking. Isn't it true that in committee, judiciary non-civil testimony was offered that the criminal enterprises who are working in the pimping and pandering areas simply are treating the existing misdemeanor charge as a cost of doing business?
That is indeed correct. We had a detective from the Smyrna Police Department that works with the FBI Match Task Force here in Metro Atlanta, and she has had pimps say directly to her, this is a cost of doing business.
And isn't it also true that the bill that's before the Rules Committee today would make the second and subsequent offense a felony, not the first offense as was in legislation in previous sessions?
That is also indeed correct.
Thank you.
You have no other questions.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Corbett, I apologize for not calling on you earlier.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I bring before you House Bill 131, 7 down under modified structure on the front page. In November 2001, Bernie Marcus announced his vision of presenting Atlanta with an aquarium. That would encourage both education and economic growth. Together with his wife, Billy, they donated $250 million toward that effort. Georgia Aquarium, Inc. is a 501c3 that now operates the aquarium. The aquarium promotes conservation of the aquatic biodiversity throughout the world. The company also engages in the rescue and rehabilitation of sea turtles, whale sharks, dolphins, and small whales, and returning them to the wild. The organization is committed to working on behalf of all marine life through education, preservation, spit that out, exceptional animal care and research across the globe. What we're attempting to do with this bill is just basically move the aquarium tag from just a regular revenue sharing tag to a conservation tag, Mr. Chairman.
You have no questions.
All right. Have one other bill, if I may.
Yes.
10 down under modified structured, House Bill 213. And I know we had several questions yesterday, and as I did when we started this process, the Speaker appointed a study committee last session to study industrial hemp and to solicit expert advice, hear concerns, make any recommendations regarding the feasibility of producing industrial hemp responsibly, and I say underline responsibly, as well as highlight the potential economic benefit it may have for farmers of the state. Members of the committee, that was on the study committee, Robert Dickey, Tom McCall, Jimmy Pruitt, Carl Gilliard, and myself. In our first meeting in Elberton, I understand. But anyway, Hemp 101 is what we titled that, and we learned all the differences between hemp and marijuana, and basically the 0.3% THC is anything above that's marijuana, anything below is industrial hemp. Over 25,000 different uses, textiles, construction materials, nutritional products, pharmaceuticals, and the list goes on and on. Dr. Alan Moore with University of Georgia, he gave the history of it, and the difference between that and marijuana, and the main difference is the industrial hemp lacks the psychoactive properties associated with marijuana. Do I need to keep going, or we? Well, I know I had so many questions yesterday. I'll try to answer them all. I'll yield for questions.
If you haven't learned by now, the longer you stay, the worse it gets.
Well, I tried to be short yesterday, and that didn't work.
Mr. Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my friend presenting the bill, how many other states allow for the cultivation of industrial hemp?
That was further in my presentation, but there's 41 other states have already done this. I got cut off. I would have got to that.
Stopped.
41 other states have already done that. Every state surrounding Georgia has already has some sort of program under the 2014 Farm Bill.
Thank you.
Chairman Powell.
Yes, sir.
President Noel, is it not true that this would be good for Georgia agriculture as a crop that they could grow?
Absolutely. It would be good for our farmers. It'll give them another crop. They can use just another quiver in their quiver. They can use hopefully.
Is it not also true that for anybody that has any misgivings because they think that somebody could smoke this stuff and get a buzz, that the only thing they'd do would be get a headache? So it'd be like smoking rabbit tobacco or worse.
And that was pretty much in my rest of my presentation as well. But
thank you.
But you're correct.
Representative Hawkins.
Chairman, I like this bill better than your last one where you're persecuting animals. Isn't that what you said?
Yeah.
Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the Chairman, how many uses did you say there is for industrial hemp?
There's over 25,000 different uses for the product.
Of those 25,000 uses, are there any limitations in this bill of how it can be used? So if industrial hemp's grown, it's bought by somebody in Georgia, are there any limitations of how they can use that in the bill?
No, as long as it stays below the 0.3 THC, it can be used for pretty much anything.
So if it's below the 0.3 THC, let's say it's 0.25 THC, it's safely below. If Chairman Powell wanted to smoke it as rabbit tobacco, or someone did, there's no limitation to that, correct?
No, but the Brent Burchett with the Kentucky Department of Ag, and they've done research on this since 2014. His comment when we went out to a visit a field in Kentucky and a processor, he said you can smoke a truckload of it and it's not going to do anything for you.
I hear that, and I know the gentleman, certainly believes that's the case, and I trust that's the case. I just want us members to understand that naturally occurring marijuana, when it took that name, was about 0.3% THC. So as long as something's...
We did that yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You have no other questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your favorable consideration.
All right, before we do this, I apologize, Chairman Benton. You had a motion you wanted to make.
Yes, sir. I move that we send House Bill 298 back to the Retirement Committee.
All right, there's a motion second. Any objection to recommit 298 to the committee? Hearing none, it is recommitted. I'm sorry, I forgot. I was going to take you first. All right, Representative Scoggins.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm here on behalf of House Bill 257. This is a bill that helps our friends in the magistrate courts across the state. This is a cleanup bill in Title 15, Chapter 10, which relates back to the old Justices of the Peace back. This bill was changed in 1983. This will allow the Council of Magistrate Judges to govern themselves, create their own council, elect their own officers. It changes a few of the qualifications to who may serve or be qualified to run for magistrate judge. A couple of things are they changes the 1 year residency requirement to 2 years, and it also changes the bond from $25,000 to $100,000. And that's it.
Are there questions? You have, Chairman Cooper.
Do all the magistrate judges across our state have to have law degrees?
No, ma'am. A high school education or a GED.
And what kind of cases do they preside over?
They preside over cases, I believe it's less than $15,000, small claims court, ordinance violations, those types of things, set bond hearings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Whip Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I'm reading through this piece of legislation, starting on line 15, it's getting rid of several offices that currently fall underneath the Council of Magistrate Court Judges. Do you not think it's important for the Council of Magistrate Judges to have structure?
I think this bill will allow them to create their own structure, set their own bylaws, and
so in your first bill, you're giving up legislative oversight to our magistrate judges?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
You have no other questions.
Thank you, sir.
Floor Leader Lott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here again today to present HB 321, and it is on the back page, last bill listed. This just extends the sunset provision on the hospital Medicaid financing program and hospital provider payments that contribute nearly $1 billion towards Medicaid in this state for an additional 5-year period. It moves the sunset from 2020 to 2025.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Okay, members. Chairman Efistration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 234, which is under modified structure, first page 234. It's the Anti-Human Trafficking Protective Response Act. Would like to ask for that.
You have no questions. Chairman Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask for House Bill 310 at the bottom of the page. That's a bill that changes.
Wait just a second. I think the sponsor of that bill just came in. Are you going to ask for 310?
Oh, that's Minnie Morris.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. House Bill 310 at the bottom of the page. When we passed the autism coverage a couple of 3 years ago, I can't remember when, the reporting requirements were that the claims would be reported on January the 15th. The insurance department is asking that we change that to June the 15th instead of January the 15th. It has nothing to do with coverage. It only has to do with when they report. They would only have to report one time this time, and it would be accurate once a year on the previous year's claims. No change in coverage at all.
You have no questions. Chairman Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two bills that are on the front page, just below the middle. The first is HB 87 to deal with a pilot with medication and wellness and counseling to deal with the challenge of approximately 70% of our current state employees and retirees are severely overweight. The second bill is HB 197, which is the Georgia Data Analytic Center. I know on your information here it's a Strategic Integrated Data System, but we did change the name because this is a much better acronym, actually, GDAC. But it will begin to open the door to integrate all of the data that we need to make good policy and fiscal decisions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Representative Bodie. Let me stop you for just a minute. Use Chairman Martin's microphone. He's not going to need it.
Wow. Again, Mr. Chairman, what this does is pretty much add the offense of aggravated sexual battery to the tolling statute for very serious sexual offenses in the state of Georgia, Your Honor. Mr. Chairman, I almost gave you a title of judge.
I think you have one question. Dean Smyrie. Are you going to ask for something? Okay. No questions. Then Dean Smyrie.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add my name to House Bill 234 and also 281.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. I don't see any other presenters. So let's set the calendar for tomorrow. House Bill 187. It's on. House Bill 213. It's on. House Bill 310. It's on. House Bill 322. It's on. HR 214. It's on. That is the calendar for tomorrow. I'll ask the whip. Do you have a motion on the House Bill 220? Okay. All right. Is there any objection? Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I would ask that make a motion to be recommitted to the committee from which it came.
And that's House Bill 220. That is the extension of the Solid Waste and Hazardous Waste Trust Fund. And the only thing in that bill right now is a one-year extension on the sunset. But it's worked so well in Joshua's law to reduce the amount that we're collecting to match the amount that we're spending that it seems to be a good fiscal policy that we might consider doing that on solid waste and hazardous waste. So, any objection? All right, it's recommitted. And that's the calendar for tomorrow. We are adjourned.